Hey everyone, welcome back. I am so thrilled to have you here for another explainer. Today we're stepping into the high stakes, absolutely zero margin for error world of engineering measurements. You know, whether you're building a bridge, designing the next smartphone, or literally launching a satellite into orbit, your entire project balances on a razor's edge of data. But here's the secret that engineers know and most people don't. The numbers on your screen aren't always telling you the whole truth. So today we're going to decode the language of data by looking at two incredibly important concepts: accuracy and precision. Seriously, I want you to take a second and think about this. How close is your measurement to the truth? Are your instruments actually reflecting reality, or are they just confidently lying to you? It's kind of a terrifying thought, right? Because the reality is, every single measurement you will ever take contains some amount of error. Perfection in measurement? Yeah, it's a total myth. The real job of an engineer or scientist isn't to get a perfect number. It's to understand exactly how flawed their numbers actually are. So, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with why measurements matter, move into hitting the target, do a space engineering test, track down some errors, and finally look at improving your data. All right, let's jump right into part one, why measurements matter. Which brings us to part two, hitting the target. Engineering decisions depend entirely on measurements, which is why we have to introduce our first heavyweight contender here, accuracy. Basically, accuracy describes how close your measured value is to the true accepted reality. It's all about truth. So for example, if the absolute true distance between 2 points is exactly 100 meters, and your measurement says 100.1 meters, you have high accuracy. You're incredibly close to reality. But if you measure 108 meters, yeah, you completely miss the mark. Now flip that over and let's look at precision. Precision describes how close repeated measurements are to one another. Notice what's missing from that definition. The truth. Precision literally doesn't care about the true value. Suppose we measure that same distance a bunch of times and we get 105.1, 105.0, and 105.1 meters. Wow, those numbers are highly precise because they're grouped so tightly together. But remember, the true distance was 100. So they're precise, for sure, but completely inaccurate. On the flip side, if you measure 98, 104, and 109 meters, well, those have low precision because they're just widely spread out. So let's put them head to head. I absolutely love this comparison because it just clicks perfectly. Accuracy means hitting the correct target. You're aiming for the truth and you hit it. Precision, that just means you're really, really good at hitting the exact same spot over and over again, even if it's completely the wrong target. And think of it like playing darts. This illustrates the concept perfectly. Imagine repeatedly throwing darts at a board. If they're all tightly grouped right in the bullseye, you've got high accuracy and high precision. That is the dream. But what if they're grouped super tightly but way off in the top corner of the board? That's precise but highly inaccurate. Now what if your darts are scattered all over the place, but they generally surround the bullseye? That's actually high accuracy on average, but terrible precision. And finally, if they're just scattered all over the wall away from the center, you have low accuracy and low precision. Just an absolute, complete mess. Okay, part three, the space engineering test. Hub darts are great for theory, but let's up the stakes to a multi-million-dollar satellite. Suppose our satellite's true altitude is exactly 1,000 kilometers. That's our bullseye, the absolute reality we're trying to measure. Let's run through 4 quick real-world scenarios. Scenario 1. Our sensors read 999.9, 1,000.0, and 1,000.1 kilometers. Beautiful. The measurements are super tight, and they're right on the true altitude. Accurate and precise, the system is working perfectly. But check out case 2. Our sensors give us 1,004.9, 1,005.0, and 1,005.1 kilometers. The data is beautifully grouped, the precision is fantastic, but we are full 5 kilometers above the true altitude. This right here is why high precision is actually kind of dangerous. It gives you false confidence in data that is totally inaccurate, usually telling us there's some sort of systematic bias in our equipment. Now, case 3. We get readings of 995, 1,000, and 1,005 kilometers. If you average those out, boom, exactly 1,000 kilometers. So it's accurate on average, but the individual measurements are jumping all over the place. Terrible precision. And then there's case 4, 1,006, 1,011, 1,016. The spread is massive, and the average is nowhere near the true altitude, neither accurate nor precise. Just an absolute worst-case scenario. Let's move on to part 4, tracking down errors. So we've seen what bad data looks like, but what's actually causing it? Well, it usually comes down to two main villains: systematic error and random error. Systematic error is a bias. It drags every single one of your measurements in the exact same direction, completely destroying your accuracy. Random error, on the other hand, is just noise. It bounces around unpredictably and ruins your precision. Let's unpack systematic error first. If your accuracy is tanking and all your data is shifted, you're usually looking at stuff like incorrect sensor calibration or some built-in instrument bias. Maybe you used incorrect reference data from the start. Or, and this happens a lot, it's environmental effects you didn't account for. Think of a metal tape measure expanding on a really hot day. Even a consistent quirk in your measurement method will systematically pull every single reading away from the truth in the exact same way. Random error is a totally different beast. If your data is just chaotic, bouncing around, lacking precision, you're likely dealing with sensor noise or rapidly changing environments. It could be that your instrument's resolution just isn't detailed enough. Or it might be tiny, unpredictable differences in how you're running the process each time, or even random signal interference. All of these factors just inject a bunch of unpredictable scatter into your otherwise solid methods. What's really cool is how we actually put numbers to these concepts. We measure accuracy using absolute error. That's simply the absolute difference between your measured value and the true value. Smaller absolute error, better accuracy. Pretty simple. Precision, though, is all about the spread. We describe that using statistical tools like range, variance, and most commonly, standard deviation. A smaller standard deviation means your data is grouped tighter, which means much higher precision. And finally, Part 5, improving your data. How do we actually fix these issues in the field? Well, if you want to improve accuracy, if you really need to find the truth, you have to attack those systematic errors. Step 1, calibrate your sensor against a trusted reference. You need a baseline. Step 2, identify and mathematically correct any systematic bias. Step 3, improve your physical or mathematical measurement model. And Step 4, account for those environmental effects we talked about. You literally have to remove the bias to hit the bullseye. But if you want to improve precision, you have to tighten up that grouping by eliminating the random scatter. You do that by reducing sensor noise and using higher resolution instruments. You need to rigidly control your environment so conditions aren't constantly fluctuating. And crucially, you repeat the measurements and use statistical filtering to smooth things out. Which actually brings me to a final thought for you to chew on. We just established that you can repeat measurements and average them out to improve precision, right? So, why does averaging repeated measurements never automatically correct poor accuracy? Well, think back to our dartboard. If all your darts are clustered super tight in the top left corner, what does averaging them actually tell you? It beautifully smooths out the random noise, sure, but it will never automatically remove a systematic bias. It might just confidently give you the exact wrong answer. So, next time you look at a perfectly precise dataset, ask yourself, are you looking at the truth or just a very, very consistent lie? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning your data, and I'll catch you next time.